All right, everybody, welcome to the Thursday edition of Locked On NHL. You got the mixtape, Adam Denker. You got myself, Chris Maselli. He hosts Locked On Lightning. I host Locked On Avalanche. It's the Thursday episode where we rank stuff. And today it's one of those rankings that nobody agrees upon, and that's uniforms. So we are going to rank jerseys. Again, it's voted on by the hosts across the Locked On NHL network. And it's going to get ugly because I don't agree with some of these. I don't know about you, Denker. No. Nothing. You have nothing to say. We're just going to start this thing.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. As always, that is very appreciated. He is Mr. Adam Denker, host of Locked On Lightning. I am Chris Maselli, host of Locked On Avalanche. Like I said in the beginning, this is the Thursday episode. So during the regular season, we were doing power rankings. I'm assuming we're going to be doing that again, which is right around the corner. And I'm sure we will get into that question of who's deserving to be number one. Is it the Colorado Avalanche because they won the championship? Or do we take things that happened in the offseason into account and kind of assess it that way? I'm sure that's a discussion we will have for a later episode before the season starts. But for today, it's uniforms. And this gets cutthroat, man. There's like people out there that, uniforms are sacred. So, some people like don't mess with the uniform, don't mess with the colors. Other people, maybe like the younger generation, like to just see something new, like Oregon football, like every game, give me a different uniform. Where do you stand on that? Do you like the classics or do you want a little bit of new flavor mixed into some of these uniforms?
It depends on the team. I think with certain teams, and that's why I really like the reverse retros. I think that's the one thing we could both agree on that the NHL has done a good job on. And actually, let's park it back real quick because I'm curious because certain people also feel passionate about this. Do you call them jerseys or sweaters?
I call them jerseys. Sweaters is not something that I don't know. That's like a certain demographic and it calls them sweaters, and I feel like I don't know if that's more of like a Canadian thing that calls them sweaters, but where I come from, it's always been jerseys. It's just I don't have a problem with people calling them sweaters, but or kits. I don't call them kits. I just call them.
I think that's a soccer. I think that's a soccer thing. I think that's just soccer there. But I don't feel as passionate about like the whole jersey thing. I mean, if I see a jersey that I like, yeah, sure, I'll go out and get it. But
yeah,
but that's the thing about hockey jerseys. I think, especially here in the States, is that there's except for hockey season and certain times of the winter, it's not like we roll around the summer wearing a hockey jersey, especially where you and I live, where it's a little bit more humid. I'm not exactly going around New York City bar hopping with a Lightning jersey on in the middle of July. So it's one of those.
I would love to.
Oh,
I would love to.
That would be phenomenal.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, it is pretty interesting to see how certain people react to it and how interesting how certain teams address it, because we spoke about this last offseason, I think, when they revealed the reverse retros, and there was a lot of comments surrounding some of the ideas. I think the one thing we all agreed on, as well as probably the rest of planet Earth, that the Islanders did not have any creativity whatsoever when it came to the reverse retros.
And if early indications prove true, I think they heard everybody loud and clear because it sounds like they are going old fisherman style for the next one. We don't know. Maybe we'll do one of those whenever they announce them. In full. Maybe we'll rank those. But and for these, these are just your everyday uniform, everyday jerseys. What we're going to do. we have the top 10 and then like the bottom 10. We don't have anything. All they released from Locked On was the top 10. And then they just earlier in the day released like people wanted to know what the bottom was. So we're going to save that for the second segment. But for the first segment, we're going to do 1 through 10. If you're watching on YouTube, we're going to put the graphic up, which I will do right now. Let's switch over to that one. That works better. And here's your top 10. And if you're not watching on YouTube and listening, I will read through them for you. And we'll start at number 10. Number 10, Pittsburgh Penguins. Number 9, Boston Bruins. Number 8, San Jose Sharks. Number 7, Minnesota Wild. Number 6, the New York Rangers. Number 5, the Buffalo Sabres. Number 4, the Seattle Kraken. Number 3, the Detroit Red Wings. Number 2, the Arizona Coyotes. And number 1 is the Calgary Flames. So again, this is voted on by all of the NHL hosts across Locked On NHL, not just Adam and I. We are just presenting to you the final results. What do you think, sir? Are you okay with this?
We were talking about it before we started recording, and I'll come out of the gate saying this real quick. I don't care who gets mad or offended. I do not like the Kraken jerseys whatsoever.
Wow.
You're
in the minority, sir.
Yeah. Maybe when it first came out and I saw it, I liked the logo on its own, but I don't know. There's just something about it. Maybe it has something to do with just trying to get used to it. I felt that way about the Golden Knights jerseys for a couple of years, and started to warm up to it. Other than that, I think maybe the Wild could get moved down a little bit. I really prefer, now that we saw going back to the reverse retros, I really prefer seeing the reverse retros that they have, the little mashup. I believe it's with the North Stars that they got going on. Other than that, all the other ones, I'm not surprised about. Maybe a little bit placements here and there. The Coyotes, I kind of figured would always be one whenever this conversation is ever had, because I feel like everybody loves the especially now that the Coyotes brought back their old school look. I feel like that's kind of an easy go-to. Kind of surprised that we haven't seen the Blackhawks up here, obviously for reasons that with everything going on.
They're falling off a cliff.
Yeah.
There's multiple reasons why people don't take to the Chicago Blackhawks anymore.
Yeah. But I like this. I like where a lot of these teams are. I did say that the Sabres one, I think, is a little bit of recency bias, just because I feel like, them announcing that the Goat Head is coming back for their third. I feel like maybe I think eventually, believe it or not, I'm gonna predict it right now, because you know how I love to make predictions. I'm gonna say the Sabres eventually, whether it be next season or the season after, I think are gonna go back to the Goat Head full time.
Full time.
Yeah,
and again, like that, they announced that, but it's not going to be their everyday jersey. From what I read, I believe it's going to be their third jersey. Which, okay,
Yeah.
cool. That's cool. The Minnesota Wild have no business being in the top 10.
Yeah.
That is just, and it's not because I'm an Avalanche fan.
That's Wild host Seth Tupel voting numerous times,
which he's not allowed to do. So we're going to get to the bottom of this. This is Watergate style.
Full on judiciary committee is getting pulled together, and Seth is going to be called to testify in front of Congress.
Yes. There's a conspiracy theory going on here, because why are the Minnesota Wild in the top 10? No business. No, I don't know what a Minnesota Wild is. I don't know, like the color scheme is fine. I don't mind the green and the red. The logo is just ugly. I don't know. I've never liked the Wild uniform. The only one that I've liked, when it says Minnesota, New York Ranger style, when it goes across.
Yeah.
Like that. I like the font of that. I like that. But their everyday uniform, blah. Ugh. Horrible.
Yeah.
Buffalo Sabres, I've never been a fan of this current uniform with that circle and the buffalo on top. I just think that's generic, run of the mill. I don't like it. Everything else, I'm okay with. I would say one of my favorite logos, maybe not uniform in terms of the where the colors are placed in it, but I don't have a problem with it. One of my favorite logos is the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah.
I just think that's a great logo. It's not just they're named after an animal. And it's not just the face of like the animal. Like the animal is actually playing hockey.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool. I've always liked that. And I do like black and yellow together. I think those are a cool color combination. Which, by the way, did you know every single Pittsburgh team is black and yellow
Yes,
in
I
every
did.
sport? Yeah.
Yes. Wiz Khalifa made me aware of that in college when Black and Yellow came out.
Like
The
real.
song.
I mean, I know the song. I'm not hip with all that stuff. So,
You're not down.
I'm not down with the hipness. Bruins, although I can't stand the team, again, that is just a classic logo. Absolutely love the San Jose Sharks.
Yeah.
For me, that was like growing up. Like I was like, I think 12 or 13 when they came into the league. So they were like, remember when, like, well, not you, when I was young, like the Charlotte Hornets were the team. Everybody had the starter pullover jacket
Yeah.
of the Charlotte Hornet because the color scheme was cool. It was a cool logo, and that was the San Jose Sharks were the Charlotte Hornets of hockey. They were new, colors were cool, logo was awesome. That was great, and it hasn't really changed for me. So I like that. Rangers are classic. I like the Kraken. I like that. I like the logo. I love the color scheme. I have no problem being where they are. Red Wings, I think that's just a classic one. I'm not as huge on the Coyotes. Definitely deserve to be in the top 10. I'm not as massive on that as everybody else is. Sometimes I just think it looks like a mess, but sometimes it's cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's good looking. And why do I feel like everybody like recently is like loving the Calgary Flames and am I missing
They
something here? Like,
Well, I think what they recently did, if I'm not mistaken, because I've always been a fan of the '80s Flames jerseys, and even
mhm.
farther back when they were in Atlanta, the Atlanta Flames with the A on fire. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they went back to the '80s color scheme, and that kind of gave the
That's what I was
jersey a
thinking.
little bit more pop to it. And
Yeah.
I think that's why it looks great. I mean, even with what it was before, but I was a huge fan of the Flames black jerseys that they had, I believe, a couple of
Mhm.
years ago that they were rocking. I think that the Red Wings, though, and the Flames should switch on this. I just think the Red Wings logo is just, I mean, I think there's very few logos in all sports that are as iconic as the Red Wings one. I mean, there's people all the time you see everywhere that are not even hockey fans. It's like the Yankee hat all over the world. It's the same thing with the Red Wings logo in a way as well.
Mhm. Yeah, no, it's just that's why, full disclosure, I had Rangers at number 1 because I just think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
withstood the test of time. Same thing with the Red Wings. So I had
Yeah.
them like 1 and 2. And then I think I had the Sharks at number 3. But there's your top 10. Agree, disagree. I'm sure everybody has their favorites. I had Calgary. I think I had Calgary at 10, actually. I think I had them in 9 or
Mm,
10. I don't remember. But it honestly surprised me. I didn't think there was that much love going around. I knew people like it, and it's
yeah.
a simple, like, cool logo, and the color scheme is great. But I genuinely surprised me that they were at number. I thought it was going Coyotes because I know
Mm.
everybody loves the Coyotes, but so close. Or the Kraken. I thought the Kraken could be number 1 too. But you probably voted as them as 32, and that dragged them
Well,
down.
if you
Yeah,
knew anything about me, Chris, you know I
yeah.
didn't vote in the first
I know you
place.
didn't vote. I know you didn't vote. Yeah. We're well aware of the mixtape not wanting to take part in these voting, so we can't blame him. I guess can't blame Tinker. All right, I'm sure everybody wants to know what the bottom section of these uniforms are, and we're going to get to that right after we get to betonline.net. It's the number 1 source. Oh, wait a minute, just went away. Hold on, it just died on me. There we go. BetOnline, number 1 source for all of your pro and college football betting needs and sports info. this season. Denker, I don't know, who is your college team? Do you even have one? I don't know who
I
you
have a
root for.
few. I have a few. I grew up right in that time in college football when USC was killing it with
Okay.
Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush.
So good.
The U. So I guess those are those two. And then I have, since I'm a New York guy, I got to root for West Point as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
To this day, that USC Texas game.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Is one. I was working when that game was going on, and I was at work. I'll say that I wasn't working because I was fixed on a television screen. What a freaking game!
Yeah.
One of the best ever. Find all of the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts this year, including this year's opening week's games. That BetOnline is also your continued source for all of your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. The fastest and easiest way to check in all of your favorite sports and events, including Major League Baseball, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the actions. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, bottom section here. I'm going to load this up for everybody. And I think this is where you're going to get some angry fan bases here. So let's load this up. We'll move some images around. There we go. There's your worst 10 uniforms in the league. And again, if you are listening through your radio, I'll read them off to you. Number 23, the New York Islanders. Number 24, the Dallas Stars. Number 25, the New Jersey Devils. Number 26, the Vegas Golden Knights. Number 27, the Florida Panthers. 28, the Philadelphia Flyers. 29, Chicago Blackhawks. 30, Washington Capitals. 31, Anaheim Ducks. And 32, the Columbus Blue Jackets, considered the worst uniform in the league. Agree, disagree? What do you think?
Disagree. I'm a huge fan, regardless of how I feel about the teams. I really like the Devils and the Flyers jerseys, especially
I
the
love the
Flyers
Devils
orange
jerseys.
Yeah, the orange Flyers one as well. I think it's just, and I think really what this goes back to, and you said it with the Rangers, they're classic looks, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact of that nostalgia that comes from those jerseys. When I look at those Devils jerseys, I think of their dominance in the late 90s and early 2000s. When I look at the Flyers, I look at the Broad Street Bullies.
Yeah.
Back in the 70s. I still am a huge fan of the Blackhawks jerseys. You know, how you feel about certain off ice things is you're entitled to feel about that. But I feel like when you look at this as a jersey, what that represents on the ice, that as well as that history associated with it, I love the Blackhawks jerseys. Florida's jerseys, the Panthers, I don't know. I'm more of
I don't like it.
I'm more of a
all.
fan. I'm more of a fan of the ones that they had when they originally became a team. And I just found this out, Chris. I was curious if you knew. If you look at their away jerseys and their home jerseys, and I may have gotten them crossed up, one says Panthers on one, and then one says Florida on the other.
Wow, I don't think I've ever picked up on that.
Yeah.
So it's in the same spot of the
it's
logo.
in the same.
One just
Yes.
says
It's just different title, or
why would they do that?
I guess it was sort of a cheeky thing that the whoever designed the jerseys,
does the away jersey say Florida to remind them of where they're from or something?
I believe what flight they need to get on the way home. The other jersey that I was surprised of that fell, because I don't know, I just love these jerseys regardless. I mean, I don't think they ever have had a bad jersey. Is the Dallas Stars. I love the green. I mean, there's really not that many teams in the league that have this color scheme.
That color green, yeah.
And I love it. I mean, yeah, it's a little weird of a logo by itself, but you add the black and the green, and I think it's a fantastic look. And the Ducks one, I mean, obviously, there's going to be a ton of people that may not like this just because of now that they've brought back the Mighty Ducks logo. I completely understandable. The Capitals one, I think that's a classic look now as well. Everything that's gone over, that this team has accomplished over the last 20 years or so since whenever they changed it from the original Capitol Hill logo that
Mhm.
they're actually bringing back, I believe, for the retros this year. I
Oh,
think
yeah?
this is starting to become more of an iconic look for the Capitals as well. I obviously, when I look at those jerseys, I think of Alexander Ovechkin. I think of all the success that they
Sure.
had.
Yeah.
I actually, it's funny. Every time I look at those jerseys, I actually prefer the away white ones, and I always think of those playoff battles between Ovechkin and Crosby.
Yeah.
And
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, but I don't for some reason, like, I love the Rangers just because 'cause that's got the classic look, and the Capitals, it just doesn't do anything. Like, you just put Capitals and you made the hockey stick an L. Cool.
it
Like,
seems
I
like,
don't know,
and
like
it seems like with the Capitals, what they've done, and I'm surprised they haven't incorporated it more into their jerseys that we've seen with the Bruins and other teams. Uh, the Capitals, yeah, they don't have, compared to other teams in the league, sexy looking home and away jerseys, but boy, do they know how to roll out retro and stadium series and winter
yeah.
classic jerseys. And
Yeah.
I think that's where they kind of failed in that regard, where they should have incorporated little things here and there. I mean, one of the things I was talking when I was going through pictures today when the Lightning were playing, they played against the Bruins this year, and it was one of the best jerseys I think that the Bruins have is the one with the bear on the
With the
front and the
bear.
all
Everybody
black.
loves that
Yeah,
one. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yep.
I believe they got that from one of their Winter Classic schemes. So
Mhm.
I think that's what it is. I do, like I said, I do like the aways more so than the Reds, just because I don't know, it just looks more crisp on the ice. Um,
Yeah.
I do prefer a nice away white jersey as opposed to maybe some of the colored ones, depending on what jersey it is. Like I said, I do like the oranges though from the Flyers.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think the Flyers should be on here. I don't think the Devils should be on here at all. Um, Islanders, they haven't really changed it to. I mean, it's weird. The Islanders have gone through so many logos and different, but they've still kept like that one that you just know them as, and I'm okay
Yeah,
with that. But they're at 23, so they like just made this list. Um, my hatred of the Vegas Golden Knights runs deep, and I threw them at the so I would catapult them to 32 and push everybody else down. Columbus, I just don't get it. Anaheim, it's funny because there's a supermarket around here, and
yeah,
my wife and I, because we have two kids, little kids, like we can't do the classic like going through the supermarket. That's just asking for a disaster with two little kids. So we
yeah,
utilize you order online and you pull in and they bring it to your car. Works
yeah.
wonders. Never thought I'd be that lazy, but you have to make do when you have two kids. There is a sign when I pull in. It's like their logo. It's like the to go logo of this supermarket, and it's a tomato like with wheels, and it's like like flying, and the thing that's leaving in its wake, almost like the as it's going, all of
The
like the wind
swoosh.
resistant, yeah, looks exactly like the Anaheim Ducks. I will take a picture of it next time we go. We do it every weekend, and that's every time I pull in to get groceries, I think of the Anaheim Ducks now as a flying tomato, basically. It's so bizarre. I know that's a crazy story, but that's just what I think of when I think the Anaheim Ducks. I don't know. Like, I'm not the logo itself is okay. I hate the color scheme. I mean, I always like black, but black with that color ish of like red or orange to me just doesn't mix well. So that's why I'm not big on the Ducks one. But um, are there anybody or any teams that you feel like should be in the bottom like list here that is not?
Ooh,
Any that
I
you
mean,
don't like?
I have a love-hate relationship. The one that comes to mind with this, because there's some days, and this I think this also kind of falls in the category of how I feel about the Capitals.
Mhm.
They had a lot of Winter Classic jerseys, a lot of Heritage Classic, whatever, good mixtures. But the Winnipeg Jets, their
Really? You
regular.
don't like that one?
Like I said, there are days when I love it,
Yeah.
and then there's
Depends on how you
other.
wake up in the morning.
Exactly. It depends on the day of the week and, what's going on in the NHL season. And then there's because it's one of those things where I feel like I look at those jerseys And I'm reminded of, but these aren't as good as the whiteout jerseys that they had back in the day. These aren't as good as some of the other ones as well. What about you? Are there any jerseys that come to mind that maybe should be in this conversation?
There's two for the bottom.
Okay.
I never really liked Vancouver's all that much.
Okay.
Not and my favorite color is blue. But
Yeah.
for some reason it just I don't like the logo at all. I don't know. They're just kind of like plain to me.
Yeah.
And the other one that I put on the lower one, man, you're not gonna like this.
Lightning.
I don't like the Lightning. I just don't. I
I
think that is so basic, and you can't really do much. I mean, you're the Lightning. You got to put a lightning bolt in there. I get it, but like the jersey behind you is cool. I
yeah.
like that. The color scheme is cool, but the current logo, it's just a lightning bolt with a circle around it.
Yeah.
And
I'm
I don't know.
more of a fan of the one that they have behind me that they incorporate it into the reverse retros, where on the cuffs you have like that blue um I guess banner, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
I like the ones that from the early 2000s where it just says bolts across the sweater instead
yeah.
of just the
Well, that's
but yeah.
I feel
I,
like that's what you have to do if you're the Lightning. Is like your logo is so plain, you have to dress up the rest of the uniform
yeah.
and make the piping cool and like the stripes cool. And like if you can do that, you have a good uniform. But when you're solely relying on just the logo,
Yeah.
it's kind of a weak logo, and it's just built into the name. There's not much they can
Speaking
do.
of logos, I just thought of this team because I've always been a huge fan, and I actually, funny story, almost, all my listeners and as you as well already know, grew
Mhm.
up in New York, was a Ranger fan growing up, also, rooted for the Lightning growing up as well because of Marty St. Louis. But the team I actually almost became a fan of just solely based off their logo
Mhm.
is the St. Louis Blues. Huge
It
fan of
is a
the
cool logo.
logo. The
Yes.
jerseys, except for maybe the light colored blue one that they have,
Yep.
but the regular home ones that they have, classics.
Yes. I like it's a solid blue color. You got some
Yeah.
black in there. You got some yellow in there. Like, yeah, that's very good. I think that should have made maybe the top 10. And I don't know how you don't have Montreal in the top.
I think
It's
that's just
just
spite.
classic.
I think that's just spite from people. Like if this was like a baseball conversation, I don't think the Yankees would make the conversation either. And I think that same
Yeah,
type of energy, I believe, is thrown towards the Montreal Canadiens. But I agree. Those are classic. I mean, but then again, if we're just talking about logos, 100% the Canadians would be in the conversation
they
for
gotta
top
be.
5, top 10. But jersey, I just feel like it kind of goes back to your argument about the Lightning. I feel like you have a great logo, but then you really don't have much. And I think
Mm,
that's part of it too. They haven't in the 100+ years that they have been a franchise,
haven't done anything.
they haven't done anything. They haven't done one
No,
single thing. And they're in the same conversation, I believe, off the top of my head, as what the Islanders did, because I believe their retro reverse jerseys were basically the same thing, except maybe a different shade of red.
the Canadians.
Yes, if I'm not
They
mistaken.
did the logo, but it was blue. Not the logo was the same, but the primary color of the uniform was blue. It was like this a distinct like blue color. It was almost like inverted colors. Really, it was cool. It
Oh,
was cool.
actually, yes, I'm looking at it now. I
Yeah,
do stand corrected. That is pretty good. That's pretty
yeah.
good
I
looking.
liked that one. Did like that one.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Yeah, let us know
That's
below if
yeah.
there was any ones that we missed. I think we hit all of them, right? I think maybe a few here and
Well,
there. Maybe like
I
the
mean, we can talk
Oiler.
about.
Any honorable mentions real quick before we move on to the next segment?
Obviously,
Uh,
I love the Avalanche one. I think I just love their color scheme. I think the color scheme is
yeah.
awesome, and I think their logo is cool. I don't like the Nashville logo. I've never liked that
Yeah, I never
saber
understood
tooth
that. I mean,
thing.
the
I
the
don't like
yellow the yellow is just very, very intense.
very yellow. Yes, yes.
The Hurricanes one as well. I'm not really a big fan of.
No, and
Uh,
they changed to that hurricane flag logo, which I've
yeah,
never
that's
liked.
yeah,
I've
I never
never liked it.
understood that.
Nope. So, not a fan of that. So, I don't know. Throw out there, and we're trying to be unbiased. They didn't go on about my Avs not being on here, and that's completely fine. I get people they're kind of indifferent on that, but I think their color scheme is great, and some people like their logo, some people don't. But
yeah,
notice how we didn't talk.
Notice how we didn't talk about the Maple Leafs. That's because they have to win a playoff series first, and then we could talk about them on this show.
I mean, we could just put like the original six, quote unquote, original six.
I
would get that, but they've changed. The Maple Leafs have changed the Maple Leaf itself in the font a couple times. So
I'm more of a Toronto Arenas / Toronto St. Pat's kind of guy in terms of the jerseys. Yeah.
All right. Maybe we'll do another one when the reverse retros come around. So
yes.
All right. One last thing that we are going to do, and we're going to take one division over the course of September. So the next 4 weeks, we'll take one division and we'll look at obviously the teams that made the playoffs, but the teams that did not. And the teams that didn't make the playoffs, do any of those teams in that division have a chance to kind of turn the tide and make the playoffs for this upcoming season? So we're going to focus on the Metropolitan Division for today. The teams that made the playoffs, the Carolina Hurricanes, the New York Rangers, the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the Washington Capitals. The teams that did not, the New York Islanders, Columbus Blue Jackets, New Jersey Devils, and the Philadelphia Flyers. So do things stay the same? Does anybody get knocked out? Does anybody who didn't make it last year make it in?
I think Washington falls out this year. I think they were very fortunate to make the playoffs last year. Given, we spoke about it in this show numerous times. And then you saw it in the first round of the playoffs. Very old looking team. We spoke about it as well as that if the Islanders actually showed up and played last season, they probably, if they would have performed up to the standards that we had for them the last 2 years, I think a lot of people would argue that maybe Washington or Boston probably would have fell out of that conversation relatively quick. I know the sexy pick out of this division to make the playoffs is probably going to be Columbus, given now that they have Laine and Johnny Hockey. My message for those people is let's see it translate onto the ice.
Sure.
Because I mean, we've seen certain duos in the past. And the classic example right now, I mean, granted, whole nother level, but if you want to make the comparison, look at Edmonton with Draisaitl and McDavid. Yeah, they make the playoffs every year, but other than this past year, they haven't really done much. And even in that series against your guys, showed relatively quickly who is the better team and how a championship team is supposed to be constructed. I have always been high whenever we do the preseason rankings. You know this, Chris. I've always been high on Philly. I think they had a little bit of a setback year. I think last year was just a complete disaster. I think that having Tortorella this year as their head coach is going to really, I mean, it could go either way with Torts. We both know how this goes. They could make a complete 180 as to what they were last year, or it could be more of the same. We're gonna have to wait and see, especially if John Tortorella, if he's going to be able to evolve with how the league is, because this isn't the mid 2000s where you could go out there and block shots and squeak out 2-1 games on a nightly basis. Now you got to go out there and score goals and play some exciting hockey. So that's really going to be something. And Carter Hart. I mean, I think we're finally in the year where Carter Hart needs to play up to the standards and the potential that everyone says that he is capable of doing so. So I really think this is a do or die year, not only for for Carter Hart, but also for the Flyers.
So then what do you think?
I would say Philly. I would say Philly's my pick.
Really?
Because I don't think New Jersey is there yet. I think next year they are. New Jersey has a fantastic team. I just think that they're too young and their goalie situation is still very questionable. Columbus, like I said, I mean, we don't know what I don't know what we're gonna get out of them. I mean, this Gradeau Laine combination could be phenomenal, or it could not translate to anything. And the Islanders did absolutely nothing. I think the Islanders could have signed you and me and still been better off than where they are right now.
Yeah.
This past offseason. So I would have to say the safe bet probably is Philly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, the thing that I look at is the team that just missed, or I say just missed, the team that was the first team out in the division. How far back were they of the team ahead of them? And you have Washington, who had an even 100 points, and then you have the Islanders, who were 16 points behind them. I don't think if you play better over the course of a full season and not just towards the end of the season like the Islanders did, um, is that like an impossible mountain to climb? I don't think so. I think, and I think, and you've heard that from Lou Lamoriello
Yeah.
that he didn't go crazy because he likes the team that he has, and
Yeah.
they're chalking a lot of it up to that start of the season last year where they just played an ungodly amount of games to start a season on the road because their arena wasn't ready. They don't have that problem this year. They can sleep in their own bed early on in the season. You know, that makes a difference. Is it
Yeah.
enough to make up that many points? It could be. In Washington, I wasn't big on them last year. They did exactly what I thought they were going to do. Start out pretty hot, and then they're a aged team. And they kind of started losing their legs. They just had a good enough lead on everybody else to make the playoffs. But saying that, they only finished 3 points behind Pittsburgh, who
Yeah.
was the number 3 team in this division. So I don't think you're going to see a ton of change. Carolina's going in, the Rangers are going in. I think Pittsburgh will make it. I think it'll be a little bit closer. I think there's going to be a little bit more of a logjam for those last 2 spots between Pittsburgh. I think Washington maybe misses out. I could see the Islanders getting in, and I really like New Jersey. I think Hughes is ready for a monster year. You're right. The goalie situation is a little weird, but I think they're going to be able to score. Hughes, if he can stay healthy, I think he's ready for a big year. Columbus, I think they're going to be right where they were last year. 37, 38, and 7 for 81 points. I don't think they're going to be getting much more than that. And I think Philly, I think you'll see an uptick from Philly. This is what John Tortorella does. He goes in and he fixes really bad situations. He fixes them, he turns them around, and then everybody hates him because he's a hard ass. And
Yeah.
he gets on you, and then they get rid of him. So I think he will turn them around, but I don't think so much where they will compete for a playoff spot. So if I'm, putting money down right now, I would say the 4 playoff teams are Carolina, the Rangers, Pittsburgh, and the Islanders. And I'll even go a step further and say New Jersey finishes above Washington.
Wow.
They'll miss a playoff spot, but I think New Jersey will finish above Washington. That's my far-fetching prediction for the Metro.
Wow. I
There you go.
To go out and say that Washington dropping basically two spots.
But I think Washington will put up points. I think
Yeah.
it's not like Washington's going to free fall, but I
Well,
think
no,
New
that
Jersey
was
is good for a lot more wins, and I think the Islanders can close that gap of 16 points between them and Washington over last year. So I think Washington will be involved. This will be a better division. I think Columbus and Philly will be on the bottom. But I think it'll be a better division, and I think you'll have a tighter race for the 4th spot than you did last year with all those teams involved. And I think Washington just misses out. And I think New Jersey just misses out too, and the Islanders get in.
Yeah.
Book it,
I mean,
Dano.
Yeah, I have to agree with you in terms of it being close this year. And going back to what you said about the Islanders, I mean, yeah, you were right. I think if they just got off to a better start, and which was the case for San Jose 2 years ago, we might have been sitting here talking about the Islanders going back to the playoffs and potentially going back to Eastern Conference Finals. But yeah, I think that Washington, I think this is going to be the year. And we'll also talk about this with Boston, with the Atlantic. This is going to be the year I think we're really, really going to see that age really contribute to some of the struggles that they have on in the season. Years past, it's normally has been in the playoffs, but I think really this year, I think I wouldn't be surprised by the deadline that is probably going to be a daily talking point about the Capitals, and some of the needs and holes that they might need to fill up,
Sure.
as they're trying to get that last spot. I'm not convinced about the Islanders. I just, they haven't done anything. They haven't done really anything to get better. I do like their goalie situation. I don't believe it's a goalie situation that's going to be able to get them far in the playoffs. Obviously, we're just talking about getting into the playoffs. But if we're going to make that argument, if you look at what the other teams have done, Philly has the talent. I mean, they've shown it over the last couple of years. It's just a matter of putting it out there and it producing. And I think Torts is the guy that's going to be able to just light that fire. Jersey, I mean, we're both high on Jersey. And I don't think it's going to so much as hinge on Jack Hughes, his performance. He is obviously the best player on this team, but a player that I absolutely enjoyed watching last year when I was able to catch some Devils games is Jesper Bratt.
Yes,
I love Jesper Bratt. I think he's one of the most underrated players, up and coming young players in the league right now. And if you're going to sit here and if you're a fan and you're going to say the Devils are going to be good this year, you're going to have to know exactly who Jesper Bratt is.
Mm-hmm. I think they're going to be an exciting team. So, all right, we shall see next week. Among other things, we will look at the Atlantic Division and the teams that missed out, and if there are going to be any changes there. Interesting division.
Yeah.
Some teams on the rise there. Can they continue to rise and make the playoffs? So we'll talk about them next week. All right, my friend, that'll wrap it up for today and the Thursday edition of Locked On NHL. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. As always, comment away. Let us know what you think of our network-wide uniform picks and as well as our division talk on the Metro. All right. Enjoy the holiday weekend, everybody, as well.
Yeah.
Stay safe. Listen to some danky dank mixtapes. Have some barbecue. And it's all good. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week.